Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, please. At this time, we're going to begin the funeral services of Mrs. June M. Alter. Please take a moment to be sure your phones have been turned off as Rabbi Tzvi Engel, the Rabbi at Congregation Or Torah, begins the sacred funeral ceremony.
We're gathered this morning to pay our last respects to June Alter, Yenta Yehudit Bat Zalman, who left the world yesterday on Shabbat. Sadly, as a result of COVID, there are relatively few people here to pay your last respects. And at the same time, we enjoy the benefit of being able to also at least welcome people from around the world via Zoom who are joining us, including precious grandchildren. So we'll open this morning with the recitation of 2 chapters from the book of Psalms, from Tehillim. First, Lior Lapid will lead off with the 23rd Psalm, and he'll be reading it in Hebrew. If you'd like to follow along, it should be in your service folder in English if you'd like to follow along. And then the 121st Psalm by Bailey Alter. And after that, we'll hear some words of eulogy. Please give your attention to the screens here, and we'll hear that recitation now.
מזמור לדוד אדוני רואה לא אחסר, בנאות דשא ירביצני, על מי מנחות ינהלני. נפשי ישוביו ינחני במעגלי צדק למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות, לא אירא רע, כי אתה עמדי, שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צהרי, דשנת בשמן ראשי כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי. ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים.
Shir Lamalo, Esai Anai El Ha'arim, Me'ain Yavo Ezri. Ezri Me'im Adonai, Oseh Shamayim Va'aretz. Al Yitain Lamot Raglecha, Al Yanum Shomrecha. Hine Lo Yanum V'lo Yishan Shomer Yisrael. Adonai Shomrecha, Adonai Tzilcha, Al Yad Yaminecha. Yomam Hashemesh Lo Yakeka Ve'erech Balayla. Adonai Yishmorcha Mikol Ra, Yishmor et Nafshecha. Adonai Yishmor Tzitcha Vo'echa, Me'atav Yad Olam.
The first chapter of Psalms that we heard today, the 23rd chapter, speaks about the idea that God is my shepherd, and though an individual knows that being mortal, we're all fated ultimately to walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we can have the sense of a quiet confidence that the Almighty will be with us on that journey. In the 121st Psalm, it closes with words of blessing and words of parting. May God guide your going and your coming from now and forever. And that refers not only to a person in this world, but also a person in a journey retreating from this world. The last recitation is the opening of words of hesped, of eulogy. The first eulogy recited at a funeral for a Jewish woman was for Sarah, our matriarch, Sarah Imenu, by her husband Avram, there in the marketplace in Eretz Yisrael, in the land of Israel. And it was inscribed later, according to our tradition, by Shlomo HaMelech in the book of Proverbs and the book of Mishlei. Eshet chayil miyimtza, v'rachok mipninim michra, v'tach ba lev ba'ala v'shalal lo yechsar, gemlatu tov v'lo ra kol yemei chayeha, darishat zemer ufishtim v'taz b'chefetz kapeha, hayita ko'oniot socher mimerchak tavilach ma, ותקום בעוד לילה, ותיתן טרף לביתה וחוק לנערותיה, זממה שדה ותיקחהו מפרי כפיה נטעה כרם, חוגרה באוזמותיה ותאמץ זרועותיה, טעמה כי טוב סחרה, לא יכבה בלילה נרה, ידיה שילחה בבקישור וכפיה תמכו פלך, Kappa parsa le'ani v'yadeh shilcha le'evyon lo tira leveita mishaleg ki chol beita lavush shanim maravadim asitala sheis vargaman lavusha nodaba she'arim bala b'shifto im ziknei aretz sadin asita vatimkor v'chagor natna lakna'ani oz v'hadar levusha v'tischak liyom acharon piha padcha v'chochma v'torat chesed al lishona Sophia halichot beitah velechem atzlut lo tochel kamu vaneh vayashru ha'ba'ala vayahalala rabot banot asu chayil vatalit al kulana sheker hachein vehevel hayofi isha yirat Adonai hiti talal tenulah mi priyadeha v'halaluha v'ashe'arim ma'aseha. Well, here's some words of eulogy now from members of the family. First from grandson Ranan Alter, and then we'll hear from Bradley.
I just wanted to share a few words about Bubby. I was very lucky to have 34 years to spend with my Bubby. Growing up, she used to tell us that she was 29, and every birthday she turned 29 again. I don't remember how old I was when I realized that that could not be true, but I was older than I would care to admit. Bubby played a huge role in my childhood. Sleepovers at Bubby's house were a special treat, where she would shower us with milk spaghetti and her patented Haagen-Dazs coffee ice cream, and a replay of my favorite movies. Summer days meant swimming in Bubby's pool. Special occasions would warrant a trip to Baskin-Robbins. Bubby also helped me navigate my childhood rite of passage, which was cheating in Monopoly. At the time, I felt very slick for getting away with it, but on reflection, I think she knew. Growing up, she would come over often on Friday nights and for Shabbos dinner and lunch as well. And that was very special, how she connected with us and with our family. Plus her lemon meringue and strawberry pies were out of this world. Bubby would liven up whenever she had the chance to talk about her great-grandchildren, my kids. My kids would love visiting Bubby. It would mean a chance to see the birds at Park Plaza, color pictures to hang on her wall, and of course have ice cream from her freezer. She was amazed at their accomplishments, and she spoke well of them. She couldn't see well for many years, so I'm not sure how much she actually saw of my kids, but she would enjoy their voices, she would marvel with how old they sounded, and she enjoyed their art anyways. And she would squeeze them very tight and just touch and feel every part of their faces as though she could see them through her touch. She was also adamant about calling Kobe Duddy when no one else would. The past year has been really tough for really the entire world, but for Bubby it was no different. We were limited in how much we could see her, and she couldn't touch my kids. The isolation from COVID was palpable, and she suffered from it, and ultimately her health took a major turn because of COVID. I wish I could have seen her more. Bubby's life was beautiful because she helped raise my amazing father and foster a tight-knit family that we lived in Chicago together, and I know she is proud of that, and I hope to carry on that legacy. Bubby, I know this was an incredibly hard year for you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all of that, and I'm happy that your suffering and isolation is no more. I know that you can see us all now, all the time, and you can finally see your beautiful great-grandchildren clearly. I hope to make you proud and raise them in the ways that you raised my father and continue that legacy that is our family.
I would like to tell you all a little bit about my mom, most of which you all know. Mom was born in Chicago, the middle of 3 daughters, born to Sarah and Sam Michael, my Bubby and Zadie. As a teenager, she and her family moved to Tucson, Arizona for my Bubby's health. Mom is preceded in death by her older sister, Annette Michael, and her younger sister, Ruth Marcus. Mom was married in Tucson, raised a wonderful family. I'm the youngest of 4. My siblings Chuck, Kay, and Eddie. Mom enjoyed raising her family in Tucson. She was a leader, and she was the religious leader of our family and ensured that we had bar and bat mitzvahs, that we went to shul on Shabbat. She kept a kosher home, and she ensured that we would all learn and remember our values and traditions. This in a time and place where it was a very difficult task, and some levels of compromise were always necessary. After her divorce from our father in 1970, she moved back to Chicago with me, to Chicago to be close with family, and I ended up basically being adopted into the Marcus family. Uncle Dave and Aunt Ruth, Marty, Ellen, Sharon, and Michael. They have always been like siblings to me and my family, and to my family as a whole, we all have a very special connection with them. Mom embraced her community. In Tucson, she was involved in the synagogue sisterhood and school PTAs and Hadassah and more. And in Chicago, she was involved in the Lincoln Jewish Congregation, and she even volunteered at Ida Crown Jewish Academy, taking lunch money. My friends all knew her there as Aunt June because of my cousins Sharon and Ellen. Mom was a fighter. She was very stubborn on many things. If you turned the TV off of Fox News, she would go crazy. She was a fighter. She fought to be independent. After we moved here from Tucson, she found a few odd jobs. Then she decided to better herself, and she went back to law school. And at 55 years old, she graduated law school and got her law license. Her last job before retiring was a bank trust officer. Even with the loss of her eyesight from macular degeneration and other difficulties with ambulation after a fall, Mom was still a fighter. She was at Park Plaza for 10 years, but always dreamt about being able to go back to her condo, even though it was just not a reality. I and my family are forever grateful that Park Plaza exists in our community, and especially grateful to Lynn, Mom's caregiver. The caregiver the whole time Mom was there, and she was very patient and wonderful, keeping Mom as independent as possible. Mom's favorite activity, other than Fox News, was singing with Lindsay at the piano at 2 o'clock, or going on Fridays to the Oneg with Rabbi Allen. Many will remember my mom for her baking, was already mentioned. She came to our house for years for Shabbat meals, and her desserts were the best. She brought lemon meringue pie, strawberry pie, chocolate cakes, and best of all, the world-famous Congo squares. Every Purim, Mom would send out mishloach manot to Kay, Eddie, and Chuck. She would bake Congo squares, mandel bread, and hamantaschen. They would arrive in a shoebox in crumbs, but the kids loved it anyhow. Even later, when she couldn't see so well, she still baked. The pies were a little bit runny, but we still loved them and loved her. My kids remember the sleepovers at Bubby's house. She would spoil them all with spaghetti and ice cream for dinner. In 1972, Mom took Kay and me on a trip to Israel, like a regular tour. That was the spark of Kay's making Aliyah, and she fell in love with the state of Israel right away. Kay's daughter, Inbal Lapid, shared some sweet memories with me about Bubby. This is from Inbal. She used to come and visit us in Arizona. She would sleep on our couch, and I couldn't wait to get up in the morning and find her out there on the couch. And we visited her at Park Plaza with Ethan, our son. Bubby spent time in the bird room, and Ethan kept going up and down the play slide. Bubby loved her Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Is there a repeating theme here? Chocolate and coffee. For Bubby's 90th birthday, we made a party and invited the pianist from Park Plaza. At the time, it was Roman, and he played with gusto, and Bubby was so happy. Mom embraced her family as it grew, and she leaves behind 13 grandchildren whom she loved dearly. Lindsay, Molly, and Jesse, Andrew and Amanda, Inbal, Lior, and Daron, and Renan, Daniel, Talia, Gabriella, and Bela. And 9 great-grandchildren. Mom reveled to see her family and always wanted the visits to last longer. Mom loved and embraced Beth, my wife, and Eddie's wife, Kathy, like her own daughters. And she also equally loved her grandchildren's spouses as they entered the family. One story about Mom, when I started getting involved in helping her with her health care and her doctor visits, is that we went to a doctor one time, and she was kind of being resistant about whatever the doctor wanted to do, whatever he was recommending, some sort of surgery. And he said to my mom, he said, "June, what's your life goal?" And she looked at the doctor and said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "How long do you want to live?" So this is like maybe a year or two after Bailey was born, and Bailey was fresh in the family, and Mom said, "I want to dance at Bailey's wedding." So the doctor did a quick calculation in his head, and he goes, "That's a lofty goal. Let's try and get you there." So she won't physically be dancing at Bailey's wedding, whatever that might be, but she'll be there with us anyhow. Mom, we all love you, and we miss you already. I want to personally ask you for Mikell, forgiveness for anything I might have said or done that was disrespectful or that made you upset. We ask that you be a Melitz Yosher and conveyor of goodwill up in the heavens to help your family continue in the traditions you all gave to us.
I was not privileged really to know Aunt June. So I'm sharing some reflections based on my conversations with the family. Much has, of course, already been conveyed by those who knew her best. She was born on the 22nd of May, 1929. And her journey in this world came to a close on Shabbat. In the Talmud, we have a tradition that if someone left the world over a period of time, when they leave the world, we find it say nach nafsho, or in this case, nach nafsha, the soul was at rest. I have the sense that June was an individual who really had to draw herself up by the bootstraps, not just because of a degree in public administration from the University of Arizona, but then later in life going back to get a law degree. But I want to focus a little bit on the sewing machine. You described last night a wood cabinet type Singer sewing machine. She was involved in sewing in her earlier years. She made clothes, crocheting, knitting, etc. Yesterday's Torah portion was all about sewing, fashioning garments. The Torah says, "Va'asur ha'ifod zahav tichelet va'argaman tolat shani v'sheish morzar," that there was a robe that was going to be worn by the high priest, a robe made of fibers of purple and blue, scarlet and white linen. But the first of those fibers is not so much a color as a substance, gold. And according to our tradition, if you can picture this, every single fiber in this garment, in this robe, was made up of 6 blue fibers, 6 purple fibers, 6 scarlet fibers, 6 white linen fibers, and each one of them then had a 7th fiber, which was somehow a thread made out of gold, fashioning 7 threads per color, all of them intertwined to make each of the fibers. So there are 28 fibers in each thread that would be used in this garment. I think about the ways in which June Alter of blessed memory had to sew together all of the days of her life, all of the challenges that life brought, and each time to make it brilliant. These fibers, 7 fibers, like 7 days of the week, the fibers that are made up of days. These last days and years, in fact, talking with Brad not just last night, but over the last period of time, very challenging for the family. Nach nafsha, her soul is at rest now. But the question is what messages we can take forward as family and friends and those who knew her, as an individual who was indeed involved in that oeuvre, in that craft which I think carries great symbolism. What garments are we to fashion? She loved music, not just now at Park Plaza, but I heard last night she loved big band music, Sinatra, the Berry Sisters, and Manilow, that she went dancing with friends. There was a certain joie de vivre there with Clara and Seal and Marty and Hal and Jerry. She loved living, even if there were many life's challenges. We heard from the family members about her being a big baker. She was not just a big baker, but of course she was a provider of education for her kids, a provider in so many ways for her family, and it extended through generations. There's something else, though, and it is that gold thread, which we refer to sometimes traditionally as the shalshelet hazahav, a golden strand that stretches intergenerationally. You see, she got her penchant for baking probably from Babi Sarah, the chalot that were baked, and she carried that tradition in her own way into the next generation, and then for the generations of the future. Kay, you were instilled with a love for Eretz Yisrael, for the land of Israel, because your mother took you on that journey. Jewish people are always on that journey from and back to Eretz Yisrael. Your children with Hebrew names. Bailey, who recited Tehillim from Eretz Yisrael. Brad, I heard about how she sent you to Ida Crown Jewish Academy and you got involved then in Bnei Akiva and Camp Mosheva, way led on to way. There's a chut hazahav, a golden thread that's interwoven into each of the strands. You also have a memory of another kind of a thread, but here not a thread, but a strap. Yuzedi putting on his tefillin. Your children and the other family members, of course, of the next generation never saw that, but you did. And if not the actual moment that has an image of a picture, certainly can be conveyed in your words, and it, I'm sure, is intergenerationally. The grandchildren, each of them, is given, therefore, a certain garment, and each grandchild is called upon to weave their own garment. In a few weeks, we'll be reading about this same idea, not in prospect, but in how it played out. V'chol isha chachmat lev biyadeha, tavu vayaviu matveh et atchelet v'argaman v'tolat hashani v'tashes. Every woman who was wise was able with her own hands to spin these various fibers. And tellingly, the gold is not mentioned, because the gold ultimately is what animates the other four strands. It runs through all of them. It's a gold strand of a tradition. There are 4 children in this family, and we extend our condolences to them, each of them in their own path, but each of them containing that golden strand. When we think about her in the future, family members, extended family members, even those who are never zochim to see her, in their own garments that they will weave, that which they will wear through their lives, may it also contain a golden strand, a 7th strand, that is comprised of the chut hazahav, a chut hazahav of keeping a kosher home, a chut hazahav of a Shabbat, a chut hazahav of being engaged with going to synagogue and community centers and organizations, a chut hazahav of providing for family, a chut hazahav of music and of loving life. Before extending condolences, we recall, as was mentioned, her beloved siblings, Annette and Ruth, and her beloved parents, Zadie, Sam, and Babi Sarah, who were that chut hazahav from the previous generation. And we turn our attention to offer condolences to those who are grieving today. Brother-in-law David, and great-grandchildren, the grandchildren, and of course the children, Charles, Kay, Edward and Kathy, and Brad and Beth. And now the baton passes to each of you. May not be wooden singer sewing machines, but it certainly is a great charge that is given you, to be able to live your lives with that chut hazahav and to fashion beautiful garments of life in the mold and in the modality that she showed you. Tehei nishmata Tsurukadeen. May the soul of this wise woman be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. We'll conclude now with a memorial prayer. Call upon Mark Geller to please lead us in that Kalmale. I'd ask you to please rise as we recite the memorial prayer now.
El Malay Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamatei Minochan Echana Kanfei Hashchina, Bamalos Kadoshim Etarim, Gazar Harakia Masirim, Es Nishmas Yenta Yehudes Bazalman, Shalchan Li'alamo, Bavor Shanachtam Maispalalim Bad Haskarat Nishmasa, Began Eden Tehe Menuchasa, Lachem Bal Harachamim, Yastire Beseser Kinafad Li'olamim, Vitzor Betzor Hachim Es Nishmasa, Adonai Hu Nachalasa, V'sanuach B'shlom HaMishkava V'namar, Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, the interment service will continue at Waldheim Cemetery in Forest Park. There'll be an online Shiva, and also at the home. You can find all that information on the service folder and on our website. Memorial contributions in her memory to Amit women would be appreciated. That information is also on our website and on the service folder. And for those of you who are joining us online, you can continue to watch the interment service. I would try to log in about 35 minutes from now, and if we're not there yet, then log in 40 minutes. For those of you who will be driving in the funeral procession, the procession will be forming in front of the chapel. Please obtain an orange safety funeral sticker to place on the right-hand side of your windshield. Have your bright lights and hazard lights on at all times. For additional measures of safety, we will be providing many of the cars with a flag that will be affixed to the top portion of your car, and we'll have a car in the back of the funeral procession to hopefully keep other cars from entering the procession. At this time, I'd like to call upon the pallbearers to please stand next to her casket. Ranan Alter, Daniel Alter, Michael Givarayahu, Jared Scher, Mark Geller, Steve Geller, Michael Marcus, and Marty Marcus. Please rise as we escort the casket of Mrs. June Alter from the chapel. Then you may return to your cars. Ladies and gentlemen, if everyone would gather underneath the canopy. And we're also online. The rabbi will continue as the gentleman from the cemetery lower her casket. Folks, if you want to come over here behind the canopy, the gentleman has to bring the cover of the whole spot.
The one who met this final custom, they don't do pictures of customs in the public. So that's what we're going to tear clean now, okay? Yeah. Tear away, what do we do?
We're going to recite the Dayan Hayamet now, the blessing. I know it's kind of noisy, but if you could just listen in as best we can. We'll all say Amen. In Judaism, there's blessings for happy times, there's blessings for sad times. And in sad times, we say, blessed are you, the God, master of the universe, who is the true judge. We don't really understand death. We don't understand loss and why it has to be this way. But still, we make a blessing on Kshem Mevarchim ala Tov, Kach Mevarchim ala Ra, the sages teach us. And then we make a demonstration of this through the tearing of garments. So if you could please listen, I'll feel.
Adonai, Eloheinu, Melech, Haolam,
not a keeper. We're going to proceed with the burial now. Owing to COVID considerations, I know a lot of people brought gloves. Thanks to Chicago Jewish Funerals, they bring just disposable gloves. You're welcome to avail yourself of those, please, just to keep everybody safe. The two traditions that we have about the filling in of the grave with earth is that we don't hand the shovel to anybody else, and we put it down either in the earth or just lay it down. Also, that the first three shovels should be with the back of the shovel. Both of these traditions are in order to demonstrate that it's a mitzvah. We're not happy to do such a mitzvah, so there's no alacrity in it. There's no excitement. Even the halting 7 stops is a measure of how reluctant we are to part from a loved one. And as we paused each time, the pallbearers paused, I'm reading one of the chapters of Tehillim, the words that are 7 words long, is that he will assign his angels to guard you throughout your journey. To guide you throughout your path. And this is also part of the process, as it were, of the journey. So we make those 7 stops to show our reluctance, and now we engage in this important yet very sad mitzvah. I'd ask you, if you come forward, just be very careful. It's extremely muddy, obviously, and the ground is very dense. But try your best, and we'll do what we can. And if we need some assistance, we might enlist that as well today, because everything's very heavy. Okay. You shouldn't start as your son. No, I'll go first, as it shouldn't be. There's a cover for your mother. You don't go the first one. I'm just do it. Again, you're here. But, I don't know.
Folks, you can use this side as well. It's very hard, it's very heavy, so you take a little bit. Yes, I've got pictures of the picture. But I can't look at them. Oh, why not? Why not?
Chaya. Baba Chaiki. Let's call him Baba Chaiki. Chaiki Mikey. Chaiki Mikey. And Eagle's father was Chaim Gill. There's no Chaims. Chuck's Chaim, but not for this Chaim. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hi, everybody.
I feel so bad about leaving it.
Camera is getting everybody. So you gotta stand with the camera a little closer.
I'll say it with you. Now you can say your parts. For 9. You guys can come here, just make it from Tsurukadeen means like the outline of the grade, so it doesn't look nondescript. Okay, so a little bit more piled up before the session. Yeah, and then we'll be done. That's it. It's this placement in the lines that's what's kind of left over. Yeah, exactly like that. Just to make also go like literally the shovel go around the contour of the one time. Exactly. That's what you got to do all the way around, and then it's ready. Okay. I have. Oh, good. This is good too. Nice and big. Yeah. Just leave the shovels back in. Continue now with the recitation of a prayer called the Tsurukadeen. It's really just an expansion on the original blessing we made a short while ago. The penultimate line of this prayer is very well known. It's from the book of Job. God has given and God has taken away. May the name of God be blessed. And all of these verses are really just, again, an expansion on the prayer. If you want to follow along in the Hebrew with me, you can do that. Or on the flip side, it's in the English, whichever one you prefer. And then it'll be followed by the special Kaddish. Yeah. Hatzur tamim pa'olo, ki chol derachav mishpat, el emuna ve'ein avel tzadik ve'yashar hu. Hatzur tamim b'chol po'al, mi yomar lo ma tif'al, hashalit b'mata uv'ma'al, memit u'mechayem orid she'ol v'ya'al. Hatzur tamim b'chol ma'aseh, mi yomar elav ma ta'aseh, ha'omer ve'oseh, chesed chinam lanu ta'aseh, uvizchut hane'ekad kiseh, hakshiva va'aseh. Tzadik b'chol derachav hatzur tamim, Erech apaimu malei rachamim, chamolna v'chusna al avot uvanim, ki lecha adon haslichot v'harachamim. Tzadik ata Adonai lehamit ulahachayot, asher biyadcha pikdon kol ruchot, chalila lecha zichonenu limchot, v'yuna einecha v'rachamim aleinu fekuchot, ki lecha adon harachamim v'haslichot. Adam im ben shana yiyeh, o 1000 shanim yichyeh, ma yitron lo kelo haya yiyeh, Baruch Dayan ha'emet memit u'mechayeh. Baruch hu ki emet dino, u'meshotet hakol be'eno, ומשלם לאדם חשבונו ודינו, והכל לשמו הודיה ייתנו. ידענו אדוני כי צדק משפטך, תצדק בדוברך ותזכה בשופטיך, ואין להרהר אחר מידת שופטיך, צדיק אתה אדוני וישר משפטיך. דיין אמת, שופט צדק ואמת, ברוך דיין האמת שכל משפטיו צדק ואמת. נפש כל חי בידיך, צדק מלאה ימינך וידיך, רחם על פליטת צאן ידיך, ותאמר למלאך הרף ידיך. גדול העצה ורב העליליה, אשר עיניך פקוחות על כל דרכי בני אדם, לתת לאיש כדרכיו וכפרי מעלליו, להגיד כי ישר אדוני צורי ולא עוולת בו. אדוני נתן ואדוני לקח, יהי שם אדוני מבורך. והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחית, והרבה להשיב אפו ולא יאיר כל חמתו. Now you recite the Kaddish.
Alma dihu atid li'tchadata ula'achaya me'taya ula'asaka lechaye alma ulevivne karta d'Yerushalem ulashachlel hechle begava ulamekar palchana nuchra'a me'ara v'la'atava pulchana tishmaya la'atre v'imloch kudsha brichu b'malchutei v'karei B'chayechon u'v'yamechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'olam v'lamei amaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata da miron b'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlomo rabba min shamaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom v'imramav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, we can ask everyone other than the immediate mourners to come over here. We do this in the capitals of Shirah. At that time, they offer the words of consolation that are on the bottom of the back of the service form. We're going to follow them. Ladies and gentlemen, after the Shirah, if you want to follow me, we'll go to a special part of the cemetery for Mincha. Prepare to pass through the shura. We turn one last time to the place where the Aron is now interred in the ground. And we say to the deceased, to Yenta Yehudit Bat Zalman, Lichi b'Shalom, Tanuchi b'Shalom, Tamdila Koralef, Meketze Yamin. Go in peace and rest in peace and arise to your destiny at the end of days. Now we turn our attention to the mourners as they go through the shura in symbolic embrace. We'll offer them a condolence blessing for the first time.